Hello and welcome back, everyone, to our weekly wind up. This is your host Swaraj, and with me I have Mr. Jayaram Krishnamurthy, or as he's fondly known here in Almus as JK. JK, being our market expert, has seen some erratic and heavily uncertain times over decades of his experience. But for many of us who are relatively new, we have experienced a pandemic, lockdowns, and now even a full fledged war in a relatively eventful last couple of years. Uh, JK, how would you describe this? Or rather, should I ask, have you experienced something like this before? And how would you rate these couple of years compared to your decades of watching markets?
Hi, good afternoon, Swaraj. Interesting question. Of course, when you are in the market for decades, you watch all kinds of events. But this particular event immediately brings to my memory the 9/11 attack and then the Iraq war where US attacked Iraq. So 9/11 attack was one which was kind of black swan event. Nobody expected it. So the entire world was behind US and the impact on the markets were contained. In fact, we did have a US market close then also for about a week, but we did not see major impact on the US markets or the currencies immediately. Everything followed later according to how the economy involved. As far as the Iraq war was concerned, it was again US and its allies combinedly attacking Iraq on the pretext that they were having weapons of mass destruction. So again, they did not have much of an opposition. It was almost the entire big group of countries attacking one small country, and it was like almost a victory was almost a given, although it was prolonged. And that was again a period when we had seen initial burst of volatility, but again things took the normal course after the initial knee-jerk reaction, after according to the how the economy evolved. But in this case, it is one country actually effectively going against a block of big countries. So the it is a case of egos on both sides, and it depends on who is going to relent. Right now, it's not easy to see these things come to an end very soon. But the market impact has also been well contained. I would say that despite markets having grown big over the years, the volatility due to this has not been as severe as we have seen in the past, even with the lesser events. So, like pandemic, post pandemic, we had seen big fall in the stock market. And this time, the stock market fall, I think the worst, leaving aside Russia, of course, the worst fall has been seen in Europe to about 5%. Other markets have been relatively well behaved, I would say. Dollar index has gone up by about 2.5%. Gold has moved about 8%. That is very normal. Oil, of course, has gone up, but it was already in an uptrend, and the gain of about 20% post the attack is something that we have to be prepared for, because supply chains have been affected severely. So it is something different from others, but eventual impact on the markets are going to be determined by how the economies evolve after the this immediate threats are over.
Right. So, from what I understand, this is not the worst of the volatility we have seen, like in prior events like 9/11 or the pandemic. We have seen much more extreme market moves. And now that we have seen how it has been historically, uh, right now, in the geopolitical situation, which you mentioned, Ukraine and Russia, with the latest update being we saw some shelling of we saw some shelling from the Russians on the Ukraine nuclear power plant. So, do we have any end in sight? Like, what are your thoughts? Like, is this situation just going to get worse from here?
Unfortunately, my view is that it's not going to get better anytime soon. It's the actual war, the shelling, etc., might stop for some time, but the internal trouble within Ukraine is likely to sustain. If you have to believe the Russian foreign minister, their intention was to demilitarize the area and to remove the NATO's weapons, etc., and subsequently to see that Ukrainians choose a leader of their own choice. But it's not going to be as smooth as that. And even if they do see a new leader in Ukraine, there is going to be guerrilla wars in various places. Some of the areas are occupied by Russian-backed civilians. Some are obviously backed by the NATO countries. So it is going to be a lot of internal trouble. Secondly, while the military war might stop, the economic war is going to continue. I cannot foresee NATO removing any of their sanctions that soon. And as long as it keeps its sanctions, Russian economy is going to go down the tube. And whether he will take it, and buckle down, or whether he is going to come back with something, more severe, like, it was chilling to hear him say that they have kept the nuclear arms also in readiness. So it is something that I wouldn't bet on getting calm anytime soon. So that is what I have in mind, that this is going to be a prolonged thing, and the markets will have to be prepared for uh, prolonged volatility. Perhaps we have only seen a bit of it, a trailer maybe. The full picture is yet to evolve.
Right. So a lot of internal struggle and sanctions. It's not going to get any better anytime soon. Um, on that front, we have also seen some spikes in commodities, uh, and this, considering that this geopolitics situation is not going to get better. So, are there any factors or surprises that happened over the past week which can influence the markets in the coming week?
That's the worst part of it. We were already getting into a phase of financial tightness in view of the big spike in inflation we have seen across the world. The latest figures in Europe, US, everywhere shows that inflation is on the rise. And this war situation and the economic sanctions is not going to do any better. In fact, it's going to make things worse as far as the supply chain is concerned, and inflation is going to sustain at higher level. Even if you do get a base effect, favor, it still is going to be very high. I don't think central banks can sit back and let the rates be lower. They will have to keep hiking to fight the inflation. Otherwise, the consumer will be affected. It will become a big political issue. At the same time, the markets are going to take a hit. While the initial hit has been, not much over a period, people will assess how far the economies are going. Like Europe is going to be hit very badly because of, not only because of the proximity, but also because of the dependence on Russia for their gas and oil imports. And UK, with their large investments being now, looking down the tube, it's again, we do not know how their economy is going to fare in the coming days. So, in fact, we had an instance of British Petroleum booking a loss of 25 billion to get out of their investment in Rosneft. This is just one instance. We do not know how many are going to come in the future. So, when the markets go down like this, core economy is going to get a hit, and that will be. And at the same time, inflation is going to remain high, which means we will be getting into a stagflation situation. It is the reverse of Goldilocks scenario, where we have a low inflation and high growth. We probably will have high inflation, low growth for some years to come. So it's not good news for the stock markets in the medium term. It will take some time before we really get things in better shape.
Right, stagflation and the spillover of the geopolitical situation which is happening. That was very insightful, JK. It is always a pleasure to hear about your experience in the financial markets, and like, why wouldn't it be? Because you have spent more years in the markets than my age.
Wow.
So, guys, that's a wrap for this week. We shall catch up again next week with our wind up of an even more eventful week. Uh, Stay tuned, have a good weekend. And for all of you who want to get daily updates with respect to markets, we have our Market Morning series, which is hosted by my colleague Shikhar Garg, who, by the way, is also Almus's crypto expert. So do drop in comments if you want to see some crypto related content. And till then, I'll see you guys next week. Take care. Bye bye.